As entrepreneurs and business owners, we have a knack of finding the most complicated way of fixing problems. But sometimes the easiest answer isn't that difficult at all. Hey there, and welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. If you're looking to get more sales, more customers, master your marketing, and ultimately take control of your retail or e-commerce business, then you're in the right place. I'm Salena Knight, a retail growth strategist and multi-award-winning store owner whose superpower is uncovering exactly what your business requires to move to the next level. I'll provide you with the strategies, the tools, and the insight you need to scale your store. All you need to do is take action. Ready to get started? Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You are in for a fun episode today. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, as retail owners, as e-commerce owners, as entrepreneurs, we have this knack for finding the most difficult, the most complicated, the thing that needs the most amount of steps. We forget. And usually it's because we've been in business a while and we just overlook stuff. But we forget that sometimes the easiest solution is the one that should be implemented first. Now, I think a lot of it has to do with procrastination, because quite often the thing that needs to be fixed is something we don't really want to do. And so we find ways of complicating it, ways of adding more steps to the process. I see this all the time when it comes to things like email marketing, whether it's inside our Scale Your Store program or talking to one-on-one clients. I know that quite often you guys get frustrated with not making the amount of money that you want to when it comes to email marketing. And you know me, I am all about setting KPIs and making sure that you have targets and hitting those targets. And if you've put a revenue target in place and you're not meeting it, then yes, you're going to get frustrated and you're going to look at ways to fix the problem. But here's the thing. Instead of the simplest, most easiest answer, I see you guys jumping in and adding new flows or tweaking flows or changing out emails and trying different things. But sometimes the simplest answer is you weren't making as much money because you weren't sending as many emails. And so instead of recognizing that there's an issue and addressing it in the easiest way possible, which is just to send out a few more emails, you guys procrastinate. You look for all the reasons why and make it way more complicated. And I know that I can do the exact same thing as well. I am always looking at ways to complicate the customer journey when I should be looking at ways to make it easier. And so with that in mind, I know that product descriptions are very important, and understanding how to sell your products is the most important part of your business. And so if you can't do that, and if you can't do that well, then you're going to lose money, you're going to lose customers. And so today I brought on my friend Chris from Melotti Media. He's a copywriter who has extensive knowledge of tweaking product descriptions. And so he's going to go through some simple tweaks that you can put into your website, into your eBay store, your Amazon store, your Etsy store, and you can even use these same tweaks if you have a bricks and mortar store. So we'll talk about how you're going to do that inside of today's episode. And if after you listen to this episode, you still need some more help, obviously you have a choice to have someone like Chris to help you. A copywriter who can optimize your product descriptions is always the best thing if you have the funds to do so. But if that is just a little bit out of your reach right now, then you probably want to check out my business builder workbook called How to Create Product Descriptions That Convert. And in that workbook, you will find loads of different ways. You'll find some templates. And when you combine what Chris tells you in this episode with that business builder workbook, you will have a complete game plan on absolutely rocking out your product descriptions so that they get your customers in and that you can sell more products. And the byproduct of that is you're probably going to rank higher organically in things like Google and even your Amazon and Etsy searches. Head over to selenaknight.com/convert and you will find the Business Builder Workbook there. Of course, I'll also pop a link into the show notes. And of course, if you're on the go right now, if you're walking the dog, if you're driving the car and you can't remember that, hey, you can't remember what you had for breakfast, just head over to selenaknight.com, jump into the Work Together navigation bar, and you'll see a little section there that says shop, and it will take you to all of our Business Builder workbooks. And you're looking for the one that is called How to Write Product Descriptions That Convert. And now let's jump in to today's episode. Chris is a well-established and renowned Australian content marketing and copywriting professional who lives by the motto, continually challenge, consistently grow, constantly humbled, and confidently show. And today he is on the show to talk to us from a copywriting point of view, how you can optimize product descriptions on your website. And hey, if you don't have an e-commerce store, it's okay, because the tips he's going to give you also can be translated into being used by your sales associates or by yourself when you're talking to customers in store. Chris, I know that this is going to be a very fun episode because whenever we get together, all we do is laugh and chat.
And good. So that's how it should be. Hi, Salena. How are you?
Good. Business should be fun, right?
It should be. It should be. And it's all about connections, right? That's why we do it. And that's how we get the most success.
All right. How did you become a copywriter? How did you know that words were your thing? Because look, I can write words. Sometimes they're pretty good.
Yeah.
But I'm not a copywriter. I don't make any claims that I'm a copywriter.
Yeah. And look, I'll answer your question, then I'll start by defining it. So my background is 15 years of marketing in a lot of corporate roles. And I started my copywriting business on the side because I really enjoyed the articulation of messages when it came to the context of marketing in business. And so then the business took off and there was a huge need for it. And here we are today, 5 years full-time in it, and it running successfully. I have a team of 8 now. And so that's my background. As for a copywriter, a lot of people say that to me. They go, "Oh, I can write." A copywriter is slightly different. Sure, it's all about writing, of course. But what it is about analyzing your customer and analyzing their needs and their pain points and making sure that you're connecting with them in a genuine and interesting way that they find valuable so that engages them. Like anyone can write a pamphlet, but what I specialize in is thinking about like context. And I think about like, how can we say this in a way that's going to really inspire an audience to take action, which is what's going to lead to today's topic, right?
It is. And I have to say messaging is something, I've been in marketing for 15 years, and messaging is something that I guess I kind of knew about, but never really understood. And a few years ago, I did this program by Brandon Lucero. He's been on the show, and it was all about messaging. And it was not about conventional messaging. He was really about taking all the things and listen to the podcast, guys. I'll put a link to the show notes. But he was like, take the things in your industry. And I know this is kind of similar to what we're going to talk about today, but take the misconceptions in your industry and like slam them down and say, like, for me, one of them is retail is tough.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the only people who will say retail is tough is people who aren't doing well.
Yeah.
So is retail tough, or are you just not getting your stuff together and putting your efforts where it needs to go? So I think when I did that, it all just clicked, and it was like, oh my goodness, messaging is so important. And inside of our Scale Your Store program, we talk about, and I'm sure you're going to talk about this today as well.
Probably.
I call them like levers. So the buttons you need to push to get customers to need to buy.
Yeah. And that's the best marketing. And it's not just about thinking about print words. Like a lot of people think, oh, messaging is words, but it's also the messaging behind your videos, your social media, your images, the way that your retail store looks. All of that is around your messaging and your brand's communication style. And so if it's not consistent and it's not compelling and it's not customer centric, then you're already on the wrong foot. And this is the problem that a lot of business owners make, is that because they like the mistakes that they make, because they're in the business every single day, all those assumptions flood in, and it's totally human. human. It's normal because you're in it every day. So you expect that people have the same knowledge as you do. You expect that they can connect the dots and they can't. And so it's about you being able to lift yourself out of your business, put yourself in your customer's shoes and say, what do they want to hear? And what do they want to know and receive as a message in order for them to go, oh my gosh, I need that in my life. That's a relevant message for something that I need. And that's the difference that a copywriter makes.
Just a couple of days ago, I needed to get some nutritional supplements because I've changed up my weight training program and I needed some magnesium supplements. And I went onto the website and my naturopath had kind of said, here are the choices. And one of them had like MCT, AR, and I'm like, I don't know what all these things mean. Like I'm just new to this stuff.
And this is what we're going to talk about today in retail descriptions is that, again, it's all the lingo, all the information. And I'm not saying that the lingo and the acronyms aren't important because if you're talking to an audience that's familiar with these things, like a tech audience or perfectly fine. But if you're talking to a consumer that doesn't understand all these technicalities, if you put it in there, you need to explain it or make it relevant in some way. It's so critical and so many businesses just miss that.
I guess what you're kind of saying is before you do anything else, you need to understand your customer.
1,000,000%. It's marketing 101 is know your customer. And then the best messaging comes from this is your customer, this is your brand. That overlap is where the sweet spot is. And it should be all about customer-centric information. Now, I'm not saying that you have to follow them. That's not what I'm saying. Like, as in you as a brand need to lead and take charge and explain your differences, but you need to communicate it in a way that they're going to see relevance in it. Like no one buys when, and no one takes action when people can't see the value in their life and in their context. And that's the problem that the business owners make is, sure, you might have a great product, but if people can't see a value that's a need in their lives, then that's where they will struggle to make that final decision. And people vote with their wallets.
Yeah. And if you're confusing them or if you're making them feel dumb, which that can happen, especially if you are in a niche market, if you make someone feel dumb, they're not going to buy from you.
No. And if you think about it also, sorry, I get really passionate.
That's okay.
Is that today, think about your customers. They have so many different options. What you sell, even if you sell something unique or artistic, there's still multiple options. Like the biggest thing I say in all my marketing classes is you're no longer competing against your competitors. You're competing against everything because it's attention. Attention is one of the most finite resources today. And so if you think about it, when they're looking at your product, they're also got 5 other tabs that they've got open of alternatives. And so the minute that your messaging is slightly inconsistent or incomprehensible, or they just can't see the value in it, they just leave. And I shouldn't have to tell you anything because everyone listening to this podcast or watching the video, you should know because you are a customer. You are a consumer. Think about what you bought recently. Was it a car or a fridge, whatever it was? When you're looking at it, you don't just go, oh, okay, I'll just buy that one cause. Like you look at alternatives, you think about things, and the website that gives you the most information, the one that answers your questions and shows you why you should choose it is the one that you buy.
Okay, let me ask you this. When it comes to knowing your customers, because like you said, that's marketing 101. The people who are listening have probably heard that 50 million times, have probably done 49,999,000, never done anything about it. Like they have an idea in their head. They probably haven't articulated it. What are a couple of questions that no one ever asks you about customers that you wish that they would ask?
I often say, start with the basics and build up. Okay. So sorry, I know you just said give them ones that don't ask, but start with the basics of the demographics. Who are they? And if you say everyone, you're wrong. Right. And I know people are going to be like, oh, what? It's really, if you say this is for everyone, you're wrong. And the reason why is even though your brand might be applicable to everybody, right? Everyone is not the people going to the website and looking at it. Like, for example, if you do a cheese cutting board, you can say, well, everyone
could use a cheese cutting board. Yeah.
Would need this, right? But that's not going to help your business. Sure, they might want that, but that's not going to help your business find the people that are the decision makers. That's who you're targeting because not everyone would go and buy it. So you need to ask yourself, are they stay-at-home mums and dads? Are they the chefs? And then what you need to do, back to your question, Selena, is the 5 whys. If anyone's heard that before, read that book, is ask yourself why 5 times, why they would choose or why they would need this particular product. So that was what I say. Start with demographics and then ask yourself, why do they need it? Why? And what it'll end up doing is you'll end up delving into the pain points of their decision-making process. So really they don't really need a cheese board. What they're looking for is something to impress people when they come over. Right. And they want something that's going to look impressive every time they bring it out. And they want something that matches the quality of their home or their restaurant.
Or it's sustainable.
See, and this is what it is once you start delving into going from everybody to asking yourself why a few times, suddenly you get really into the nitty gritty of, it might be parents looking for safe options, and sustainable options so that they feel great about the environment and their children. It might be someone that's very particularly health conscious and they don't want organic because they've heard that organic, when you're cutting chicken, that it can pierce into the organic, nature of the board and some germs can linger. So therefore, then once you have all those answers, then you can then respond in turn by saying our product addresses these pain points. So these are the kind of things you need to be asking. But then there's other things like, who are they when they're in the context of buying? As in, what kind of mindset would they be in? Like, is your product one of those ones where, and it's perfectly fine to say yes, is it like an impulse buy? And if that's the case, what are you saying in response to attract that impulse when they're in the right moment? Or it might be typically speaking, every time they think of our product, they've always just cooked a meal, so they're exhausted. Right. So this is what a copywriter does. We don't just write pretty words. We think about all these kind of scenarios and say, what context is this person in when they're looking to make the purchase? And what can I say or write that's going to get them over the line in that particular situation? And what challenges do they have that they see as important that we need to address?
So how do you write a product description for the person who sees the product but is not the end purchaser? So my example is my daughter needs a new school bag, or she needed a new school bag. It was driving me insane that the one she bought was really pretty. She can't fit anything in it. So she stops taking her water bottle to school because it didn't fit in the bag. And then, of course, she's dehydrated and she's coming home and she doesn't feel good. And I'm like, where's your water bottle? Oh, it doesn't fit. So she had to go and research a new bag. And we gave her the measurements of her existing bag and said, it's got to be bigger than this. It's got to have more compartments. So she had to do the research, but then she had to sell it to us. So she came with lots of them and she was just like, what do you like about that? Oh, it's blue. How do you write the description that captures the end user, for want of a better word, but isn't the purchaser?
And I'll go one step back to customer. Is this will come from when you define who your customer is. And so, for instance, in this particular case,
so who's the customer?
I would hope that
who is the customer
in this? Both.
Right.
And so, what it would be is the bag company hopefully would have had 2 personas, like one for parent and one for child. And I'm hoping that they've done this because as a bag company targeting children, especially for this product, you would hope that they would have 2 separate personas, even though they're the same customer, 2 separate personas. And I've seen this done really well. Lego does this really well. And I know everyone's thinking, well, that's a big example. But Lego literally has a tab where you can go, I'm an adult and I'm the kid.
No,
right?
They don't.
It really does. You go to that Lego website and it has 2 sides and it had like, click and it says I'm the child, right? And you can see the design is very different for the child side as it is for the adult side, and that's one way that I've seen clients do it. The other ones, what they do is, for instance, if that bag company is targeting children specifically, then they write it to the child with the parent like in their background. So for instance, they'll say, this is something you can tell your mum, dad, or guardian, that they'll write that. And it's really entertaining. And even for the parent is then impressed by the product company because they'll say, you can tell mum and dad that it's pretty and that it fits all of your homework books and your water bottle so that you can have a great day every day. So what happens is, the child, even if the parent was to read it, they can see that the company, the brand has taken an avid decision to talk through the child. And I find that as a parent, it would impress me more because I would be like, wow, like they've talked to my child and empowered my child and given my child the responsibility, but they're really talking to me as a parent saying, we've considered all of the bases. So that's one way. So you can have divides and tabs. You can have that talking to the child. Really what it comes down to is who's going to trigger the purchase. So in this case, it probably would be a child. I mean, with a bit of context, Salena, was it targeted at children specifically? Or is this just a generic bag company that just has generic information?
No, I think she ended up buying it on AliExpress because she couldn't find one that had all the things that I needed it to have. So when she found one, she kind of took the punt that it looked like it had all the things. So marketing, like in marketing points, it got absolutely 0 because it was like English, bag for schoolwork and homework must be.
That's never a good sign, right? But what I would do is sometimes I've seen brands do this really effectively is the blended approach, which is hit both. So if you have those two personas where you know there's going to be a child looking at it and an adult, so like a parent or a guardian, then what I would do is put the attributes that matter most to them. So for instance, if you have a list of this bag has these features, I would put comes in a variety of gender specific and gender neutral colors to suit all preferences, right? So then the child and the parent are sated by that. Then it could be practical compartments at this particular depth and width and size for the requirements of this particular kind of schoolgoer. So then what happens is the child gets the information they need and the adult gets the information they need in the same area.
Yes. And I guess it's kind of similar for people who sell a lot of gifts. I'm thinking one of my clients, the majority of the people who come into her store are buying gifts for other people. And so again, copying and pasting the standard manufacturer's descriptions
is never a good idea. Can I just say that to everyone listening is honestly, if you're copying the manufacturer's things, first of all, the SEO damage can be done, and that's search engine optimization. So what it means is that, if you are literally copy pasting someone else, then when people search for things, the traffic gets away from you because they probably have more traffic and their website would rank higher than yours. So what you're doing is you're already putting yourself on the back foot. Whereas if you come up with something original, and again, back to your customers, if you think about who's going to be doing this to who's going to be reading this, talking directly to them from a place of knowledge will really help you. For instance, if you're on selling chocolates or something like handmade chocolates, or you've got your own chocolates in there, is really addressing it. So it might be you have the two personas where it's like, people who want to self-indulge, right? And then you've got the gift givers, right? So the language you use is, this makes the ideal gift even for a bit of self-pamper when you've done something great and you want to celebrate, or if you want to give that special someone a little bit of love. Do you see how you tick both boxes and it's said in a warm and interesting way so that people don't feel excluded either way? So it's because you wouldn't just say gift, because then people go, oh, I want to give it to myself. And they go, this is a bit awkward. Maybe I shouldn't. And then you might talk them out of making a decision.
And I guess that kind of goes back to your cheese board example as well, is just tweaking that description to say something like, whether this is for you or as a gift, this is perfect for the person who's looking for the organic, sustainable, handcrafted, blah, 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 blah. So just adding a couple of words, because sometimes creating a whole new product description from scratch can be like an extremely daunting task. You could have 5,000 SKUs and it's an impossible task.
Yeah. 100%. And I know I've been asked by clients to do something like 7,000 SKUs. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But what it comes down to is really, if you want to get products sold, is one by one. I know it sounds daunting, but it really is. If you want to make the sales that you deserve, it comes down to who's the customer or customer targets of this particular product. And then it's literally writing it in a way that you're directly talking to them. There's too many websites that are blatant, too many vanillas, right? And those are the ones that they make average sales. Right. Whereas the ones that stand out are the ones that talk to a customer. They've taken the time to understand their customer. They're then addressing them and they're explaining why this is an unmissable offer.
And I think it helps you to, as a consumer, is if you're trying to make a choice and your only choice is price, if someone has just that little bit of extra information, it's like, I feel comfortable, I feel safe, I feel like you understand me, so I'll buy it from you. In fact, you know what? I might just even pay a little bit more because you have addressed my concerns.
They will. And this is like one of the things I've said to you, Selena, is the FAQs. I don't understand why people don't put the FAQs, even in platforms like eBay. eBay actually gives you an FAQ section, and the amount of things that I see problematic there. Like, for instance, the only FAQ will be if there's a problem with the product. And so as a result, you're already having this, one of the first and only FAQ there is, if you're not happy, here's the steps, right? And that already makes me anxious. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have that FAQ in there, but put in 5 of the most common that you, and if you're getting asked them, put them on the listing or record them, put them on a Word document on your desktop and have them ready. It could be, do they come in other colors? Do they come in other sizes? Is it sustainable? All those kind of basics. The easier you make it for your customer, the easier it makes it for them to make the purchase. And as you said, Selena, they'll probably pay more. I know I've done this many times where I've got a few tabs open and I'm looking for a phone case or something, gym equipment or something. And I'm looking online. I can't touch it. I can't feel it. I can't interact with it. All I'm looking at is the copy that's on the page and the one that says all these FAQs, and it makes it really easy and visual for me to understand what I'm buying. You just you probably purchase the higher price because you feel more secure in your purchase.
And I think that's where reviews come in really important as well. Like if you don't have the time to do that, by activating reviews, it means, and bad reviews are okay as well, because it could be, here we go. I got this genuine Apple phone case because I needed the MagSafe for the charging, but I've only had it for 3 months and it looks like I've had it for 45 years. Like it looks like it has literally fallen to pieces. And I don't think I'm a very harsh user of my phone, but that's going to make you choose whether you buy something or not, isn't it? It's like, oh,
yes.
But maybe for the person who just really likes it, it's like, oh, I'm prepared to take those risks. So I will, like my expectations are now, if I get 3 months out of it, that's great. So I'm not going to be annoyed if I don't get 6 months out of it or 12 months out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, Selena, as you said, that like even negative reviews, so long as you address them, they can actually be a good thing. And I know that sounds so counterproductive, but sometimes you can actually turn a negative into a huge positive. Like for instance, if they go, I bought this and and I misread the sizing chart and I got the wrong size. And then you reply and you go, no problem, user 7. Totally fine. We understand. We're going to send you the new, the new size out. We'll be in contact shortly. What happens is your other people look at it and go, oh, wow, they really addressed this fast. And then chances are they'll go, well, this sounds like a good purchase. So yeah, 100%.
I know that you said that you've done a lot of like copywriting for products, Amazon, eBay, all those sorts of things. When you get this right, what kind of results can you see?
Yeah. So what you often see is some of those websites give you a bit of a results page, like as in, and for anyone who's listening, make sure you're checking some of those results page. Like they can really give you a lot of critical data around what's working and what's not. So for instance, checking how many people are seeing the page versus how many people are interacting with the page versus how many people are staying on the page. All of that data can really give you an indication of what copy is working and what's not. So ultimately, the results that you want are lots of impressions because they're finding the page and it's giving them lots of information. High dwell times. And what I mean by that is they're spending time on the page. And the reason why is a dwell time just means that they're consuming the information that you're writing. So like, for instance, if you have the introduction paragraph, then the warm and fuzzies in the middle, then some of the benefits and features, and then you have some FAQs and some testimonials and things like that. When people spend a couple of minutes, it's a good sign. If they're spending like 20 seconds, it means that you're not giving them what they need and they're bouncing. But then, of course, there's the click to conversion. How many people are clicking to make that decision and buying. And all of those stats help you improve your pages. So what I tend to do with clients is we look at some of those pages and see what their stats are. And you can change the language up. So like, remember how you said, Salena, like some people have like thousands of SKUs. What you can do is find a similar product and pitch them in different ways according to your customer personas and see where the stats lean. And if the stats lean into favor of one, then you can start to adjust. And that's if people listening are wondering, like, how do I really hack this system? This is where it can really come from.
And what kind of results have you seen? Like, what kind of increases?
So the main two are the increase in dwell time on a page, right? As in, like, going from 20 seconds to over 3 minutes. Have been some great, and those 3 minutes are precious. Like, I know I've had some website clients and designers say, "Oh my gosh, Chris, think about 3 minutes.
3 minutes is a long time.
It is. 3 minutes is a long time. And often what it involves is, like, they put a video. So like, I've written a script and they've done a video on the page. That can really get your dwell time up. The longer they dwell, look, chances are the better the results are, because what's happening is that they are like basically consuming the content and getting really informed about it. And then what it would be is, of course, the click to purchase rate. Now, I've seen like stats go from 0.2% of like people converting from the page to the buy, go up to say 25%. And it's huge. And it's not like I did anything miraculous. Like, I didn't upgrade their product. All I did was tweak the language, thought about the customer, put in FAQs that are relevant, talked about things like made the formatting clearer to read. So instead of like I've seen it so many times on Amazon and eBay. It's like,
Amazon, just this, it's just like a vomit of words.
My gosh! And so what happens is you're already putting people on the back foot. If you think about it in the physical world, imagine what that would be equivalent to. It would be like a retail assistant running up to you and going, "These shoes. You got to buy these shoes. These shoes, they come in 7 different colors." And you're just like, "Oh my gosh, whoa, right?"
And here's the instruction manual. Yeah. You have to read it all right now.
Yeah, and here's 30 points that we've ripped from the manufacturer's handbook, right? Really, what it comes down to is like starting them off with a nice heading. Right? Make them feel like they've landed in the right place. This is again, writing 101 is make them feel like they've gone in the right place. So it should be the clear keywords like Samsung S20 phone case in large or something like that, so that it's nice and easy. They go, "Okay, that's what I'm looking for." Because in the end, this is transactional, right? We're trying to make that transaction. Then the introduction sentence doesn't need to go on, but it can say things like, and things I've changed is like, like I did that cheese board. That was actually an example. And we had like, set the perfect scene every time everyone comes over, with a charcuterie board that makes an impression and, leaves your guests impressed. Or, give the ultimate housewarming gift, right? So what it does is it conjures up these images of the potential of this particular purchase. Then the next thing people want is a clear like benefits. And it could be like, what does this board have? What does this include? Like, and take them through a journey. Where it's, and I tend to describe it as an upside down triangle, where it's like you've got the overarching heading and the starting welcoming message, then it goes into the benefits, and it might be features, and address them all. Like, don't make them random things, like make them bullet points where it's like, wax sealed for sustainability and ultimate cleanliness, dishwasher safe so that you can spend more time with your guests and less time cleaning up after. Do you mean see how all of a sudden it becomes this really compelling thing? And then all the way down to the offer. It could be get one, get two, gift one for yourself. And
Chris, just can I jump in?
Sorry, yeah, please.
That was 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But you know how we said 3 minutes on a page?
Yeah.
I've actually been timing it. So all that stuff that everyone has just listened to in between was 3 whole minutes. It was a long time. We just covered off heaps. Formatting heaps in 3 minutes. And so I wanted to jump in and just say that, because when you said 3 minutes, it doesn't seem a long time, but just think about everything you and I just discussed from that point to that point. And it's a lot.
So thank you for doing that. That was really good. And it's what it is like, see how when I'm giving you engaging value that you can take away, you stick around. And it's the same with something as simple as a hair tie, a box of something, a gift, anything you can buy on these retail stores, even artwork and gifts, all of those things. So long as you talk to them in a compelling way and, and engage them and be interesting, you're already like at the top 1% of every other store.
Okay. So you make copywriting look easy. You can kind of say, oh, this. But what do you do if if it's just not your thing? How can you implement this if words are not your thing?
Oh, well, of course, the obvious one is to hire a copywriter, of course. But if you really struggle with words, what it might involve is, like, I'm sure that a lot of people listening will be doing like their own arts, crafts, woodwork, and a lot of the things like on Etsy and a few like on those kind of programs. So what I suggest is, instead of going, okay, here's my blank page, I need to write out the bullets. Instead of that, what I would suggest is tap into the passion for what you do as a product. So, for instance, if you're a painter, or if you're designing a product or doing something like that, don't sit there and go, this painting is nice. Like, tap into the like what you're doing with, this. I was inspired to put this painting together to do this in this particular scenario. This is how I express myself. People love the backstory as well, right? So long as it doesn't go on and on and on. But I'm saying is, if you're struggling with the words to create because you're looking at it from a strictly transactional point of view, it might be that you need to tap into some of that love and that passion. Why did you make these particular tea sets or these chocolates? Or
why did you even choose to buy that thing from the product catalog?
Yeah.
What was it about that thing that you went that rather than that?
Yeah, like if your retail or e-commerce store is all about, for instance, like if you're drop shipping or you're getting it from another thing, you might say, I'm supplying this to, Australian families because I personally bought this. This would be hugely compelling. I personally bought this, thought it was great. It did this XYZ in my household, and now I'm making it available and more accessible to more homes because I think that everyone should have this. Copy like that, when you're explaining a story, is really a really compelling way to get over that roadblock. The other thing you could do is first and foremost, mind dump. Because a lot of people, they struggle because they go, oh, I need this to be perfect on the very first try. What I tend to do is mind dump, then take a break and go take a fresh stance. And then what I would do is check it over again. Like, go get a coffee, come back, check it over again and polish it up. And then check the next day. And usually by the third polish, you've got into a rhythm. And that will help you overcome that writer's block.
And I think once you kind of have your format, because like you were saying, the overarching, the warm and fuzzies, the features, benefits, once you know what that looks like for you, then it's a bit of a rinse and repeat. It's like, okay, why did I choose this? What was it about the color? Is it a striking color blue? Is it a beautifully muted colored blue that would suit coastal properties? Or
yes.
Why? You had a reason for buying that thing. What was it?
What was it? And how can your customers benefit from your knowledge of it?
Okay, so tell me, what is one of the biggest irks that you have? Because you and I love a good bitch fest. What is one of the biggest irks that you have when you shop online?
Besides all of the ones that I've mentioned,
all the things we just talked about. Yes.
Spelling errors are one, and it's. I know it's not me being a grammar Nazi. Actually, far from it. It's just when there's spelling errors in there, what ends up happening to your customers, they fall out of your message. So, like, if you're painting this perfect, back to the cheese board, if you're painting this perfect picture of, impress your friends every time they come round, and there's spelling error through that, what happens is just the reader gets stopped and they go, oh.
Spelling mistake.
And then but then what happens is they focus somewhere else and they go, oh, my children make that spelling mistake. It's funny how, and then off you wander, and chances are you lost that sale for something simple as that. So if you don't have things like spell check and Grammarly, like what I always encourage people to do is write it in a Word document first, so that you can get words and more advanced checking features before you then copy paste it into eBay or Etsy or Amazon or, all those kind of things. So that's spelling errors the one. As I said, formatting. Like formatting, I just don't understand. Like people skim, right? And that's perfectly fine. Don't think, oh, I'm wasting all this time writing copy. People will skim and find the parts that they want to be relevant. So what I say is make sure that there's plenty of signposts. For instance, put benefits. I don't have to be that blatant, but it could be features, why this board's for you, return policy, all those, like, make it easy so people can go boom, 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 and you can even say for the child, children read this, adults read this, like have a bit of tongue in cheek in it. Make it easy so it's skimmable, and use bullet points and numbers and things like that so people can find it and read it so they get what they need to make the purchase. All of this is about streamlining straight to the purchase. And people all have a checklist of things that they're looking for. And if you can reassure them with great formatting and clear messaging, you're setting yourself up, and all you're doing is basically polishing the words. Imagine if your business can increase its profitability by 1%, 5%, 10%, simply because you went back and looked at all of your descriptions and polished them.
Or even if you just did your top 10 or top 20 by volume products or by margin products.
Yeah.
Like you said, if you got one extra sale of each of those things every week,
what would that mean to you?
What would that mean to you? It's probably tens of thousands of dollars.
And it's worth the pain of writing it. Like if you think if writing's not your thing and you're going, oh my gosh, like besides hiring a copywriter, it is just make it a task. Say Monday, I'll do the first top product, Tuesday, second top product, Wednesday, and just do one at a time. It's digestible. And then imagine the implications ongoing. It's really good leverage time, because if you think about it, one change could lead to incrementally more sales over time.
To me, this is one of those things where if you've got a team, even if you've got casual people, sometimes people are just really good at this. So even get them to try it out. Once you get the format and get them to do it, because some people really love this stuff. And if you really think this is a drag, then
outsource, delegate. Yeah.
Outsource. Yeah. Either get the copywriter to do it, or see if someone in your team can do it.
Yeah. And then what I would do is get someone random to check it. Get an auntie, a cousin, a son, a mum, your PA, whoever they are, get someone to check it and say, where would you get stuck? And you can even say to them, put yourself in the shoes of this kind of customer that I am targeting. Where would you find it boring? And tell them, be brutal. And a lot of the times, I do this with my own writing and my own team's writing, is I say to them, I was reading as a real estate agent chooser. Like I was choosing a real estate agent to sell my home, and I got to this point and then got bored, right? And that little thing might be, we need to wake the customer up at this point, throw in a question. So that can be same thing for product descriptions, is it might be they get 2 paragraphs in and they go, bored. So you might say, wake them up with a question like, does this sound like the right cheese board for you? Then look at all the features it comes with. Do you see how that immediately perks them back up? So where would they lose attention, and how can we get them re-engaged? I know it sounds complicated, but the minute you start to get in a role and you think about this from that kind of perspective, this will help you.
Yep. I love that. And I really do think that breaking it down is really important. I even do this in my emails. Like I have one sentence emails, and then I put the next sentence on the next line, because I know I'm a skimmer. And so I just read like the first 4 words. And if they don't look like I need to know them, it gets me in trouble sometimes because I haven't read the whole email. But realistically, you have to know that attention is very, very finite and very precious.
Very precious. And that's why, like, don't use multiple. Oh, actually, that's back to my bugbears. Is don't use multiple fonts.
Oh, no, don't do that.
That really puts people off. There's something psychologically wrong with that. I haven't worked it out, from a neurological perspective. But people, when they see all different fonts, and this happens pretty much on every single eBay page, right? There's
Comic Sans. There's Comic Sans in there somewhere.
And then there's this and that and the other. Like, it actually is more convenient and digestible for the reader for it to be consistent. But you can use different, say, sizes and colors within reason. It shouldn't look like a rainbow puke fest. It should be, like when they get on board, have a bold heading, and then maybe it might be something like, a bit of a sentence, and then another bold, smaller heading, and then sentence, and then bold, small, bold, right? So it takes people on a journey rather than 7 different fonts and 8 different colors, and it's just like chaos.
I think most Shopify and e-commerce sites, you're very limited there. So it really is about, like you said, choosing bold or a slightly bigger font just to let people skim. I have another question for you.
Sure.
In your prep sheet, I asked, so what are some questions that no one ever asks you? And you said, can you tell me more about your husband? So now I want to know more about your husband.
Oh, that was a joke. Oh my gosh. Oh, he's going to die. Okay, so as you can see how extroverted and crazy I am, I can't tell you how opposite how opposite he is. And you know what? It's probably resonating with a few people here who are business owners, because as business owners, we often tend to be networkers. Like, I'm not saying everyone is an extrovert, but like, we tend to be messers. Things go wrong, long hours. There's a lot of different things. And so finding that rock is what you need. I can't believe I wrote that. Oh, I can't tell him that. No one tell him about this episode. Yeah. So I married love of my life 4 years ago, and he is a very introverted finance person, and I'm a very creative, out there marketing person. And so as a compliment, we work really well. And look, when the business is doing extremely well, I'm celebrating and he's hearing about it. When it's doing really bad, I'm clingy and he's hearing all about it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure that people are resonating with this. Is make sure you have that rock in your life. It doesn't have to be your partner. It could be mum, dad, cousin, friend, because we all know, like, business is tough.
Yeah. I mean, we use the word tough, but realistically, you clearly wouldn't be anywhere else. Like, you love the challenge.
Oh, no.
So we really shouldn't whinge about it being tough, because
you're right.
Because
it's a rewarding challenge.
It's a life. It's a lifestyle. Yeah. And we choose to have it. But I am very much the same. My husband is in sales, so he does talk, but he's like a quiet achiever. He's one of those salespeople. He just listens to people and goes, "Oh yeah, I can help you with that."
Yeah.
Whereas I am clearly the outspoken, extrovert. But you do have to have that person. And we're not talking about copywriting here, but I think it's really important. And if you've been listening to the podcast a while, you'll have heard this story. But Elizabeth, who is our creative director, was actually my competition in business. When we had our physical stores, there were only 2 of us in the whole of Australia who sold the things that we sold. And she was in Brisbane and I was in Sydney. And we opened within 2 weeks of each other.
Serendipity. Yeah.
Of course. Didn't even know that the other person existed.
Yeah.
Long story short, ended up that I had to contact her to get some stock because the supplier had sent the stock to her. And I was like, this is like asking Maya to call David Jones and say, "Can you send me some stuff?" Like,
yeah, Big W calling. Sorry, so Woolworths calling Coles. yeah, right. Yeah, 100%.
But I did, and became the best of friends after that. And what we used to do is every Thursday, because that was the only day that we were both in the shop, is we would have mentoring sessions. But the funny thing about it was you would have to hang up the phone if a customer walked in. So you could be having a conversation, then you just hear click.
Yeah. Oh, gotta go. Yeah.
And so having that person who either can listen and give you unbiased feedback, or who understands what you're going through. And I didn't mention this, but you and I are both in Cub Club, which I call the CEO Club. So everybody here, they'll know it as the CEO Club, and that's how we met. But just having those people who, like, there's no obligation. I just posted the other day, I needed some help with some sales target stuff. And someone was just like, "Oh yeah, call me." And it was like 4 minutes of just having a conversation with someone. I'm like, "Oh, thanks."
Honestly, it is the best thing. If you find a network that can really help. Like I have a few Cub members that I call regularly. And it's just for advice, tips, tricks, things outside of the box thinking. When you're an entrepreneur, like you don't know everything, and that's okay.
And you shouldn't know everything.
No. And so that's why we try and reach out to other people. We do things, we take courses, we get exposure. We do take educated risks, but as well as having that network really does help.
Yes. For me, it's been the best investment already. And I've only been there, a couple of months, but just that not feeling like there is any like obligation. Like I helped someone out who wanted to start a podcast, and I spent an hour on the phone. But by the same token, when I needed some help, it didn't feel like, oh, I have to pay you to do this. Like, I've paid for services. I've paid you for your services.
But it's a camaraderie when it's more advice. And I find that is something that surprised me most about this journey, was that fellow entrepreneurs, there's two realities. One, they're going through the exact same thing as you are, right? So never fool yourself into thinking that, like, just because someone has a Mercedes or something that they're because they still have the same cash flow stresses, they still have staffing things and all that. But the other truth is the fact that I found most people are, because we share those same challenges, most people are willing to talk. Like I remember once I was having a bit of a stressful time with a client, and I was driving in the car, and one of my fellow colleagues called me about something completely different. And I said to him, he said like something like a throwaway line, like, "How are you going, Chris?" And I said, "Look, I'm actually struggling right now." And he went, "Oh, okay, let's chat." And the whole drive home, he was talking about how things can change and things happen and often the problems that they are having, they reflect on you, and then you blame yourself when it's one of their issues. And he just talked me down, and it just felt so good. And that's what I found. It doesn't have to be in the negative. It can be, like you said, Salena, the positives as well, where people go, "Hey, struggling to make this happen. What do people think? Any advice?" And people are willing to share that. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And just the roadblocks that you think that it is like this little thing that I needed help with, that someone else who'd done it before, it was less than 5 minutes, the conversation, because they've done it. But I could have spent days trying to figure that out. And I was asking my husband, who didn't know the answer because it's not his thing, and asking my friend who was in recruitment. And then I just popped it in the group and called this guy, and like in the space of 10 minutes from posting to getting on the phone it was like, oh, like I can get on with my day now.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got someone that actually has valid, relevant experience in a particular topic.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I would highly suggest networking things like this and getting together with a group is really important.
All right. I think that is a great place to finish up. If people, because you and I clearly could talk for a very, very long time.
Oh, keep it going.
If people are thinking, you know what, I do need some help, whether it's with copywriting for their products, copywriting for their website, all that type of stuff, where can they find you?
You guys can reach me at melottimedia.com.au. There's enquire@melottimedia.com.au, and you can find all the details there. But also, if you're getting stuck on copywriting tips, it's just melottimedia.com.au/blog. And you can find, I give away so much free stuff, and there's no catch. Like I don't ask for your email address. I don't harass you. And it's just free copywriting tips, tricks, advice, all there on my blog. You can have a read, or there's podcast equivalents.
Do you hang out on socials?
Yes. Yeah, quite a bit.
Which one?
LinkedIn is my main one.
Oh, LinkedIn. Oh, I like it. Yeah. Okay. So find Christopher Melotti over at LinkedIn.
Yeah. I think I'm literally linkedin.com/Christopher.Melotti. And you can just find me there. Connect with me. I'm always happy to chat.
Clearly, yes.
As you can imagine. Yeah. Yep.
Thanks so much, Chris. This has been awesome.
Thank you, Salena, for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
So that's a wrap. I'd love to hear what insight you've gotten from this episode and how you're going to put it into action. If you're a social kind of person, follow me at @TheSalenaknight and make sure to leave a comment and let me know. And if this episode made you think a little bit differently, or gave you some inspiration, or perhaps gave you the kick that you needed to take action, then please take a couple of minutes to leave me a review on your platform of choice. Because the more reviews the show gets, the more independent retail and e-commerce stores just like yours that we can help to scale. And when that happens, it's a win for you, a win for your community, and a win for your customers. I'll see you on the next episode.